Live from Lincoln, this is Channel 8 Eyewitness News at 10 in high definition.
Oh yeah, I almost drowned. I had water up to my neck, and probably in a couple more seconds it would have been over my head.
A flight attendant who survived the Miracle on the Hudson plane crash brings her story to Beatrice tonight. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
You likely remember the iconic image of passengers standing on the wings of a plane floating in the Hudson River back in 2009.
But what you didn't see was Doreen Welsh in the back of the plane fighting to stay alive. Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Megan Polera has more on her miracle in tonight's top story.
Doreen Welsh now entertains people with her story 90 Seconds to Impact, and tonight she left a group in Beatrice with a very important message on life.
We were floating without engines over Manhattan.
It's a final flight Doreen Welsh never thought she would take.
Then I heard the three words, brace for impact.
U.S. Airways Flight 1549 crashing into the Hudson River. The plane struck a flock of birds shortly after takeoff, and Captain Solly Sullenberger is credited with the miracle landing, laying the plane down in the water, keeping it in one piece. Amazingly, all 155 people on board survived. Welsh was a flight attendant working in the rear of the plane at the time.
Behind my seat, a hole was ripped through from the impact, and that's where all the water came in. And it came in rapidly. I had accepted I wasn't going to make it.
Face to face with death, Welsh relives the miracle on the Hudson during her public speaking events across the country. Tonight, she was a guest speaker at the Flying Conestoga's annual airport party in Beatrice.
What happened in my mind during that 90 seconds, I talk about because it's amazing. And one of the lessons I want to learn is that you want to do that now. Think of those things now. You don't want to think of them when I had to, because that's not how I wanted to end. There were things I did want to change in my life.
And she finally made those changes. After 38 years as a flight attendant, Welsh retired. Now she's on a different kind of journey, speaking for a living and enjoying every second of it. A book may soon be in the works for Welsh. She has a few ideas, but she doesn't just speak to aviation groups. If you would like to book her, you can just get in touch with the Aviation Speaking Bureau.
What an amazing last flight.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Megan.
1 week ago tonight, a dangerous situation out at Branched Oak Lake. This was the scene. Emergency crews sent 6 people to the hospital after a motorboat slammed into a sailboat. It's really a good reminder for all of us to be careful when we're out on the water. Boaters say it all comes down to watching your surroundings.
Biggest thing is out on the lake, paying attention where they're going. Last weekend, there's guys out there, 4 or 5 guys, they're watching their skier, and the boat driver wasn't watching where he was, so he about ran into us. You have to holler at them, and they're just not paying attention.
Now, some boaters say they're also a little concerned with alcohol being allowed in state parks. This will be the second summer that visitors can drink after a ban was lifted back in 2010.
For a complete list of boating do's and don'ts, just head over to our website, klkntv.com.
Let's get the latest on your weather now. We have some showers to our northwest. Kevin, are they working their way towards us?
They're working their way very slowly this way, Rod. There are also a few showers being spilled in from the south with a big weather system down in Texas and Oklahoma. And we might see a few of those sprinkles overnight as well, especially down around Beatrice and south of that. But on this particular graphic, you're looking at the showers moving in from the northwest. And yeah, they're not very impressive. They're dropping anywhere from a trace to a 1/10 of an inch in their wake. And they have been weakening slightly over the last hour or so. So we'll watch those as they move in. They're probably not going to do much as far as rain. High temps today were much cooler than yesterday. We got up to 73 today after 86 yesterday, and some parts of Nebraska were in the 90s one day ago, so a big cool down today. Will that cooling trend continue into the weekend? The details are coming up.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
3 people were taken to the hospital after a rollover accident in North Lincoln. It happened around 3 this afternoon near 44th and Cornhusker. One car flipped onto the median. 3 people were taken to Bryan LGH West to be treated. We are told none of those injuries are life-threatening. The westbound lanes of Cornhusker were closed for a short time.
It's not something you want to see. A Lincoln woman saw 2 men stealing from her garage. It happened near 7th and West A around 1 o'clock this morning. She saw them run into her detached apartment garage, and they stole a suitcase and a storage bin and then took off in a dark colored Honda Civic. Police want to remind everyone to make sure that you close your garage doors at night. And if you have any information about the crime I just told you about, call Crime Stoppers at 475-3600.
Some debate tonight on who should vote on Lincoln's proposed fairness ordinance. The Lincoln Independent Business Association, or LIBA, says it should be you, the voters, not the city council. Earlier this week, a huge crowd showed up for a public hearing and the testimony was mixed. LIBA says the lack of agreement is why it should be on the ballot.
If you counted those that testified, almost 100 who testified were opposed to the ordinance. But it wasn't overwhelming either way, and so we just feel this rises to the level that it's important enough to put it to a vote of the people.
All of the times that our protected class list has been changed, it has been done through the City Council. They've done that on 5 different occasions.
The City Council is scheduled to vote this coming Monday.
And Attorney General John Bruning has said that fairness ordinance goes against state law. Tonight, Channel 8 Eyewitness News reporter Ian Hess talks to Bruning about that and his campaign for U.S. Senate.
So, Mr. Bruning, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. I guess my first question will be, there has been a lot of debate recently about the anti-discrimination rule. You sort of found yourself maybe a little bit in the middle of this. I'd like to get your feeling on the anti-discrimination rule, both here in Lincoln and also the one in Omaha.
Well, I personally oppose the anti-discrimination rule, but what I was asked to do as Attorney General was opine whether or not the city had the authority to enact the anti-discrimination rule under state law. The opinion that my office put out that I agree with is that they do not have that authority. And from a personal standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea. From a legal standpoint, I don't think the cities have the authority.
What would the top priorities be as we talk about a general election for you?
You start with the balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. I believe we need one at the federal level. We have one here at the state level, and we balance our budget every year, and we don't raise taxes. But at the federal level, they don't have one, and they need it. So imagine if it's your family, you make $25,000, you spend $38,000, and you got $160,000 on the credit card. It's just not a good way to run your budget. It's not a good way for our country to do it. So that issue is front and center.
You've been at the forefront of this Affordable Care Act argument and lawsuit. How would you address the current changes that are made and then the future ones as well?
Well, I'm hopeful that the Obamacare law will be overturned. The Supreme Court should make a decision here very shortly. We could hear sometime next month. I'm hopeful they throw the whole law out. There are things we can do to make health care more efficient, but it doesn't involve more government in the marketplace.
What differentiates you from the rest of the Republican field?
Well, I think people know that I'm willing to lead, I'm willing to fight. If they look at the Obamacare lawsuit, I'm the guy leading it. I was president of the National AGs when we filed that lawsuit. I got my colleagues together. I was in the court for every minute of it. I've done it. I'm not just talking about it, I'm leading the way. Nebraskans know I'm not a shrinking violet. The times call for somebody that's willing to go there and is passionate about the issues and is going to fight to get it done.
Mr. Bruning, I appreciate the time.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you very much. Nice to see you guys.
Well, all week we've profiled the candidates in the Republican field, but the Democratic nomination will be finalized Tuesday as well, and Ian sits down with former Nebraska Senator and Governor Bob Kerrey. That's Sunday night at 10 o'clock.
A Lincoln man is accused of trying to entice a girl over the internet. Police say 22-year-old Andrew Scott used Facebook to ask the 15-year-old girl to send nude pictures. They say she sent some in her underwear and he sent nude pictures back. The girl's parents found out and called police. Scott turned himself in yesterday.
Former Nebraska football star Thunder Collins will not get a new trial. He's serving life in prison for a drug-related murder in Omaha back in 2008. His attorney argued for a new trial, saying that the jury should have been sequestered during deliberations. Well, the Nebraska Supreme Court said no and upheld his sentence today.
A big turnout tonight for a very important event. The Alzheimer's Association held its annual gala. The silent auction and dinner at the Embassy Suites is a fundraiser for the Great Plains chapter. Not only are they a support group for caregivers, they also work with people who have the disease.
Support groups are very, very important. It's important to know that you're not alone. And sometimes when you're isolated and you're caring for a person with the disease, you really feel very much alone.
Organizers were hoping to raise more than $80,000 tonight. The Great Plains chapter covers 80 Nebraska counties and all of Wyoming. Coming up on Channel 8 Eyewitness News, we take a look at being a teen mom in Lincoln and how a high school program for young mothers is getting an extra boost.
But first, are you ready for the weekend? Kevin has your forecast for that and, of course, the next 7 days. He's up right after the break.
You're watching